Hello, and thanks for tuning in again to What Does the Author Really Mean? I know you guys have been waiting a long time for this, so here it is. Annie Dillard's For the Time Being is this week's topic of discussion. However, we are changing it up a bit. Rather than talking about the book as a whole, we are taking a look at a specific subsection, which is China, to analyze what she really means. Dillard uses the subsection of China to show how life is one giant circle, meaning we are born from the earth, we live with the earth, then we die, restarting the cycle. However, the motif of death this section is what we are really going to examine because it also feels as if she is normalizing and diminishing the effect of death and its occurrence. So let's begin in where this all starts, which of course is chapters 1 and 2. Dillard, like stated before, uses China to express death in a new way. Take Emperor Qin and his terracotta warriors, for example. The emperor uses those warriors in a metaphorical sense to fight off death because he was scared of dying, so he wanted to change his fate. He wanted to become immortal and use those warriors to do so. Take a look at page 18, where it says, instead of burying his army of living men to accompany him in the afterlife, a custom of the time, he interred their full-body portraits. Based on that, we can infer that since we are giving enough evidence that his sole purpose for those warriors was so they could act as an army and defend him from his reality. His action leads us to believe that he is selfish and only cares about himself. Now, although no one wants to die, it is ridiculous to think that barricading yourself in a tomb with clay soldiers as your army is a bit absurd. In conjunction with Emperor Qin's and his quest to conquer death, there are also many references to books in the subsection, so let's take a look at that aspect.
Chapters 3 and 4 display the reflection and definition of life and the stories that go along with it. Every book has a story, and every book has an ending. The whole idea of our life revolves around the finish and the belief in God, and how everything has God within, just as Dillard describes the desert, with every detail in so proving that God is everywhere, and that has no time. Dillard not only uses the theme of panentheism, but also that it is useful and wise to think of God as punch form. I think so. This reiterates that God is omnipresent because she considers this idea and accepts that God is not only here, but He is everywhere and in everything. The rhetorical question really emphasizes how important to comprehend God is everywhere, and we must accept the fact that He may be infinite, but we are not, which is why we need to continue the journey of life with action. This ties to how she believes life is one big circle, as God is the center of the circle, and everything revolves around God. Soon after the introduction of Dillard and his mission of studying something that contradicts or what we thought to contradict his personal views, he accounts his action, and Dillard uses his idea of living through action to show how within the cycle of life and within the circle there is a collection of action and self-belief. This concluding sequence of China summarizes a monk who is describing his work ethic of continuing working, or as Dillard perceives it, continue living, so that we can live a life of action. This story of the monk is significant because it really shows how she believes life is all about a collective action and how collectively we take action to better ourselves and the community. This idea of action is seen throughout China, and how the main part of life is action, and although we all must die, we must comprehend life as one big action. This concludes how Dillard is trying to normalize death by making it seem so complex and filled with new and exciting experiences, while she also shows the beginning and the end of life.
Moving on to chapters 5 through 7, Dillard, as said before, is blunt about death. She tries to talk about death bluntly, so she can put all humans, on equal footing, because, as said in our thesis, she uses this section of China to express that no matter how far removed humans think themselves to be, we all come from the earth and will always go back to the earth in death. She does this to normalize death and to comfort people about dying. She does this by using stories. She uses Emperor Qin's story in particular, an example of how much humans fear death. Qin, in his later years, grew paranoid and didn't trust anyone. His fear of death, like many people, fueled his motivations. A significant moment in the book is on page 153 when Emperor Qin dies, showing that not even he could escape it. Dillard asks us rhetorically if we find him silly for trying to escape death, but wouldn't you try to extend your life if you had the means? It humbles the reader and knocks them off their podium of separation. No one wants to die, and no one wants to talk about death. Humans use euphemisms like kick the bucket so we can avoid saying it directly. But, as said before, Dillard tries to show humans that the earth is where we start and where we end. A quote from page 153 shows this exactly. Quote, "We sprout, ripen, fall, and roll under the turf again at a stroke. Surely the people is grass." End quote. We all experience death, just as we all experience the life from the earth. We are part of the earth, and we will all experience it equally. The earth is all we have and all we are, which relates to Dillard's changing of morning prayer. Isolated in China, all he could give to God was the earth and everything the sun touches. Though he didn't believe God to be the sun, it was an important symbol of the birth of a new day. According to the Aztecs, the sunrise meant the sun god defeated the night, keeping the humans safe and alive. Ironically, they would offer human sacrifices to the sun in order for the majority to survive. This goes back to the fundamental motivation of humans, the motivation to live, because we know we are going to die. And Dillard's use of stories normalizes the notion of death. As you can see, Dillard's section, titled China, is used to unify the people of the world. In this unification, she creates a normality to death and the things that make us human.